we wish to wish you a happy customer service week from all of us at the Kenya Institute of Management as we welcome you into this week's webinar, where we will be having a talk on leader as coach. And we will be looking at the program in a few minutes. We will see how the program looks like today. But we start with housekeeping. My name is Phyllis Maitha. I'm the head of membership. And we will be looking at how do you ensure that today's event is flawless and there's no interruption or minimum interruption. Today's topic is leader as coach, a topic that is so profound and very relevant, especially now when there's a mix-up of COVID has ended, there's a change that has happened, and we are telling our students to go back to class, and we are telling our staff to go back to the office place. So how do we be those leaders who are able to coach their their staff, to be able to achieve above what we had planned as an institution in your various corporates? So our speaker today is none other than Thrity Engineer, a renowned speaker. She's a lecturer. We will hear all about who she is in her bio, and she's one who's going to take us through this topic. Once I stop speaking, Muriithi Ndegwa, the ED and CEO, will introduce her and also welcome all our members. And thereafter, we'll have a keynote address by Thrity Engineer Mbuthia. And thereafter, we will have Q&A, questions and answer. Yes, thank you very much for the ones who've already sent us the questions. But we wish to ask as we go on to be able to ask any questions that will come up with the speaker as she takes us through today's session. So without further ado, I wish to welcome Muriithi Ndegwa to give us welcome remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Phyllis. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome once again to this webinar. Firstly, I want to thank you, just like Phyllis has said, because without you being there, we will not be in existence as an institution. It's because of the value that we attach to you that we continually bring these webinars every week religiously from 3 to 5 p.m. every Thursday. Having said that, let me also say thank you very much to those of us who logged quite early. I think I noted some people logging in as early as 2:30 p.m. And that also shows or is an aspect of the enthusiasm that we all have in these webinars. So thank you very much, members, and please continue to support us because the institution and KIM as it is a membership-based institution. Without you, we do not have KIM. So it's only because of you that we exist as an institution. Before I call on our speaker and give a little brief about her bio, allow me just to give you some little excerpts about leadership or the leader as a coach. We are aware, or we are told, that organizations with strong coaching cultures consistently report higher employee engagement and revenue. When leaders embrace the leader as a coach concept, the cascading effects can ignite their teams to take ownership of their work and careers. In fact, research shows that executives overwhelmingly feel the most urgent problem they face is inspiring leaders to coach employees. And in turn, we are told that 93% of the leaders feel they need training on how to effectively do this. I'm sure Thrity Engineer will be talking a little bit more about those statistics and maybe even beyond. So shifting a leader's style from managing workloads to coaching employees obviously takes a thoughtful effort by both the leader and the organization. And many people have experienced playing a team sport and understand the importance of a coach as leader in that context. In fact, I'm aware that many of the young men and young women who follow football, they keep blaming the coach when the football teams are not doing that very well. But maybe Thrity will tell us whether that is the correct thing or not. What about the reverse in a professional context? What about the leader as a coach? Today, we have gathered to listen and learn on how to adopt or to adapt to coaching as a leader. And the beauty is that we have one of us, Thrity Engineer Mbuthia, who is going to be talking about that as her area of specialty. But before I introduce her once again, let me also mention a little bit about KIM. Many of us would know that KIM, just like the video was saying, started way back in 1954. And like I've said before, we are a membership-based organization. We offer training and consultancy. We also offer learning in the diploma programs and also in certification courses. And we'll be sharing on the chat a little bit about some of the programs that we are currently engaged in. because much as we are not, or the institutions are not open, we are offering our learning through online mechanisms, whether it's a diploma in law and management, whether it's ICDL, whether it's a certificate in tours and travel management, whether it's a normal KIM diploma in hospitality, or diploma in marketing or in sales, etc., etc. We offer a bouquet of all these programs, and I'll invite you, kindly check on our website, because a lot of the details will be available on the website. On top of that, we also have certification courses, and these can be short-term, maybe 3 months, 6 months, and so on and so forth, in areas like in emotional intelligence. And I'm sure 3T will also be talking a little bit, maybe, about the leader having emotional intelligence. We also offer programs in leadership and management skills for the 21st century, and also PR and strategic, besides also the effective management and administrator programs, and also programs in customer care, and so on and so forth. All these are available, and our team will be putting some information on the chat. So please scroll through the chat, and if you're interested in any of the programs, please do not hesitate to make a call on to us or send us an email, and we'll be glad to respond to you. Again, also, like we've said, we are a membership-based organization, and therefore without members, we do not exist as an institution. So I kindly request all of us, if you have not renewed your membership, the year is not yet over, please pay up your membership, because the benefit is that once you have paid up your membership and you become a bona fide member, we will endeavor to send to you all the presentations, including the one of today, and that therefore gives you a very rich repository of webinars that we've been conducting with very well and renowned speakers, including our own Professor Micheka, who is a member of our governing council, and many others, including our chair, Dr. Lydia Muriuki, and many others. So I invite you, please make your membership, pay up if you have not paid, and then give us your email address, and we'll endeavor to share with you all the presentations that we've had in the past. Finally, we are right now going through an examination series for the KIM diploma programs in our branches. And after that, we'll have an intake. The intake that we're going to be having, bearing in mind that the government has opened institutions for face-to-face learning, will be both face-to-face and online learning. So again, I invite all of us who have children or even grandchildren, please remember that KIM is in operation, KIM is in existence, KIM is doing continuous learning. And therefore, please check on the chat to see what courses would be ideal for your children, especially those children or those students who are not yet going back to school as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And it's always good to have an additional course, because that cuts out you. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to end with a quote. And this is a quote I got from none other than the late Martin Luther King Jr. And he says, and I quote, "The ultimate measure of a man," and I believe that applies also to a woman, "is not where he stands in the moments of comfort, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." And this is by Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you very much. I'll now have the pleasure to invite our speaker, the 3T engineer. But before she does so, let me give a bio about who she is. 3T engineer Mbuthia is a certified leadership coach and a professional marketer who has had an opportunity to work with diverse professionals, helping them achieve extraordinary results in their lives. Currently, she's a PhD student of management and leadership at our own Management University of Africa, which is sponsored by KIM. And thank you very much, because you are also one of our supporters. 3T is a part of the adjunct faculty at Strathmore University Business School, where she is involved in coaching and teaching at various levels. Her areas of interest include personal and career development and marketing for entrepreneurs. 3T began her career as a marketer over 20 years ago in the pharmaceutical industry, where she rose within the ranks to head the marketing department of GlaxoSmithKline, a leading pharmaceutical manufacturing company based in Nairobi, Kenya. She led teams in sales, marketing, and supply chain, and has vast experience in strategy development and driving business growth. 3T is the first woman in the East African region with a coveted accreditation of Fellow of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, UK. She has a deep love for writing, and her articles have been published in various publications, including in the Business Daily and the Kenya Institute of Management magazine. She's also the current acting chairperson, Chartered Institute of Marketing Kenya. In 2011, Thrity was recognized as one of Kenya's top 40 women under 40 for her contribution to leadership initiatives. She has served as in several boards as a non-executive director and as chairperson of the board. She runs a consulting firm called Thrity Engineer Consulting that has 3 areas of focus: executive coaching, training, and consultancy. Thank you very much, Thrity, for agreeing to be our speaker today. We warmly welcome you to the floor, and please feel free. The space is yours. And like we always say, members, if everything is okay, give us the thumbs up. If there is a problem with the sound, give us the thumbs down, and we'll come back and find out what there is. Or you can put your comments on the chat. And as Phyllis said, as she talks, please also pose your questions on the chat button. Thrity, the floor is yours. Welcome on board. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, and good afternoon to everyone who's on the call today. It's a fantastic day. The sun is out. We are having lovely weather, and so personally that makes me very happy because I like the sun. I was born in Mombasa, so I guess I just love it when the sun comes out. As Phyllis was saying, this is Customer Service Week, so we appreciate all of you who are on the call, and we appreciate all stakeholders for the Kenya Institute of Management. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this webinar today. I feel very close to the Kenya Institute of Management. You've already heard that I'm pursuing a PhD in Management and Leadership with Management University of Africa, which is affiliated to KIM. I also began my very first journey into sales and marketing with a diploma from Kenya Institute of Management way back. I won't tell you which year, unless you start calculating my age. And I am honored to be asked almost every month to contribute to the KIM magazine. So a big shout out to the team that does that magazine. And if you haven't read it, then I suggest you get yourself a copy, because there's so much information that is on that wonderful publication. Now, I thought that I would begin by sharing a little bit about my journey and telling you how I got into this area of coaching. So as you've already heard, I worked for a pharmaceutical company for very many years. I was with GlaxoSmithKline for close to 18 years. And my area was around sales and marketing, and leading the team basically as the marketing director at the time. And in 2015, I chose to step out of that space and do something different. And part of what that phase of life brought for me was the opportunity to get involved in training and coaching. Now, while I was at GSK, I was lucky enough to go through a training that exposed me to coaching skills. And as was required, the senior leaders at the time were busy trying to create a culture that was conducive. And in addition, they were trying to help those coming after them through these coaching skills. But one of the things that I now, when I reflect upon my journey and I look back, I realized that when we went through this training on coaching, we assumed that there was a time for coaching and there was a time to stop coaching. So you invite your colleague to have a coaching conversation with you. You press a button saying start, and then you press a button saying stop when you're done. And that is coaching. And it's only after I left the organization and went through further training and went through a process of coaching more individuals that I came to realize that coaching is actually not just a process. Coaching is actually a way of being. It is part of you as an individual. So So it is not something that you start doing and stop doing, but you see, this is only a reflection that came to me in hindsight, yeah? And knowing that and feeling very passionate about that, I thought it's important to share that with people and let them know and let them understand what is the benefit that coaching can bring. And in addition to that, how can you then embrace this thing, these skills, this topic around coaching? So at the moment, as has been said, I do executive coaching for organizations and for individuals who are interested in trying to solve problems and make changes in their lives. And so we're going to go into a little bit about what this coaching is so that you understand it from a good perspective. All right. I want to kick us off in this discussion by starting us on the topic of a leader. Our discussion for today says leader as coach. And most times when we think about a leader, the first thing that comes to mind is that is the person who is in authority in an organization. So one tends to think of a leader as the CEO of an organization, the MD, the head of the department. And whereas that definition may be true to some extent, I tend to have a slightly different view on how we can define who a leader actually is. And I want to share with you a quote. This is a quote from a gentleman called John Maxwell. And John Maxwell has done a lot of work on motivation and on coaching. And John Maxwell says a leader is one who knows the way, one who goes the way, and one who shows the way. Now, if we look at that definition of a leader, that would then suggest that a leader does not necessarily have to be somebody who is in a position of authority. Rather, each and every one of us has the capacity to be called or to be viewed as a leader, because you can influence, you can motivate, you can encourage, and you can direct and guide people in a particular direction. And for those of you who have worked in or are working in organizations, you will have noticed that one of the challenges that comes around with leadership is that if a leader does not step up and do the right thing and provide the right guidance and provide the right direction, there then exists some sort of a vacuum. And because nature abhors a vacuum, you find that there is someone who comes in, and within a team, you may have someone in authority, but you also have someone who is more looked at as the leader of the team. So when that person starts speaking, when that person starts talking, you find that people gravitate towards what he is saying. And therefore, that person has the ability to influence without having the authority. And I think that's what really, really makes a great leader, the ability to influence people even when you don't have authority over them. So you don't necessarily need to be somebody's boss, or you don't necessarily need to be sitting in a position of hierarchy that then allows you to call yourself a leader. So that is the first challenge that I would like to pose to the audience today. How do you view yourself? Are you viewing yourself as a leader? And your sphere of influence, your sphere of motivation, it can extend to the people who are around you. So if you are a student, you can be leading your fellow students. If you are in an organization, you could be leading a team. If you happen to be in a position of authority, you could also be leading from that perspective. If you are a housewife, you can be leading your home. So there are so many different interpretations of this word leadership that I want us to really think outside the box. I want us to think of each of ourselves as a leader. And when we start doing this, we will then start connecting how this issue of coaching is coming in to fit into the broader perspective of life. I know that we are focusing on things from a business angle and a business perspective here. But what I want to show you is that you can use this knowledge and use these skills and interpret them in all parts of your life. So allow me to take a sip of water and we can continue. All right. So now that we have cleared up this aspect of who is a leader, we want to now go and look at the second aspect of our topic today, which is this word called coach. The coach is the person. The process is coaching. And like was said in the introduction, most times when you first think about a coach, the immediate reaction is to think about a football coach, all right? Because we are a nation that just loves football. And so you have in mind a picture of this guy standing on the sidelines in the middle of a football match, probably screaming at the players and waving his hands in the air. And as you were saying earlier, when the players don't necessarily perform very well, the blame is always coming towards the coach. But if we look at this situation, this football coach, what does he actually do on a day-to-day basis when he is working with the team, when he is working with those who have the talent? Because not all of us can play football, all right? So there are those who have that talent. And the role of the coach, the role of the football coach, is to understand the talent that his team members have and to find out which are their areas of strength, which are their areas of weakness. He also needs them to work together. Yes, because for a football team to be successful, he needs them to work together. So there must be harmony, there must be fusion, there must be communication, all right? And the team also has to see the vision, what they are trying to achieve. So now when you look at it in this context, you realize that actually the coach is not just about the technical skills of playing football. The coach has other responsibilities, which sometimes we can even say are more important and more impactful. Because if the coach cannot get his team to communicate, that team will not be playing in harmony. If the coach cannot harness the talent of each of his players, then that team will be deficient because there's talent, but there's nobody tapping into that talent. So when we think of it from that point of view, we realize that there are certain skills, there are certain additional things that a football coach brings to a discussion like that. Looking at that scenario and then translating it into a professional or a business context, we look at the situation and we draw a number of parallels. So in an organization, it is important for teams to work together. The teams could be teams within a department. It could be teams across departments. And many of us are working in organizations where there's a disconnect between departments. Finance are arguing with marketing. Procurement is arguing with sales. There's all sorts of, push and pull that is happening within an organization. And so how do we then get these individuals to communicate better, to work better, to have better performance, and to ensure that at the end of the day, the customer, who is the external customer, is very, very key. So that is the person who gets the most benefit. And if you focus on the external customer, that then translates into revenue and sales for the organization. Okay, so you can see that there is some work to be done. All right, and so we say that when there is some coaching that is taking place, according to one of the people whose work is very profound in this coaching profession, he's regarded as somebody who is a leader or a authority in the area of coaching. He says that coaching is about unlocking somebody's potential. And that means that each and every one of us actually has great potential that exists within us. All right? It is not just for certain people. We are all destined to greatness. And when we work with a coach is then able to help us uncover that greatness that exists within us. Okay, so that really is the role of the coach. And therefore, coaching can be looked at as a process that helps somebody move from point A to point B by uncovering the greatness that exists within us. All right. Now, as we are looking at this area of a coach and coaching, we also find that many times there is an overlap, and people are more familiar with the term mentoring. So then people get a little bit confused and say, mentoring, coaching, is it the same thing? It's actually quite different. There may be an overlap of some sort, but there is some very clear distinction. And I want to explain the distinction in this fashion. If you have a skill that you can imagine in your mind, and on this scale, on one end of the scale, you have asking as a technique. And on the other end of the scale, you have telling as a technique. All right? Now, I can guarantee you, if I was to run a poll right now and ask this audience, how many of us like to be told what to do? How many of us like to be told what to do? I am sure nobody is going to raise their hand. Okay? It's a normal reaction. We don't like being told what to do. And why is this? Because the reality is that we have the answers within us. What we need is help to try and extract these answers so that we can see what is right in front of us. Because sometimes it is hard to see what is in front of us. So back to my skill. We have telling on one side and we have asking on the other side. And that is one of the things that I use to differentiate between mentoring and coaching. Mentoring has a lot of telling, all right? And the reason for this is because there's a lot of sharing that happens. So when you work with a mentor, you work with somebody who's been on the path ahead of you, who has experience, who knows what they've gone through, and they're trying to share with you so that they can tell you what to avoid and what it is to focus on. But on the other end of the scale, we have asking. And now coaching is really focused on a lot of asking, because the coach's role here is to use asking as a tool in the form of questions and find the right kind of questions to ask you to help you to uncover what is already there. Okay? So it's a process that one goes through, but that I would say is the fundamental difference between mentoring and coaching. Mentoring has a lot of telling, coaching has a lot of asking. And that means that if you have the opportunity to work with a trained and certified coach, that you will then find yourself in a situation where the coach is asking you a lot of questions. And if you are not prepared mentally for that, you will go into that discussion and you will say, I came in here to get answers from you. If you want somebody to give you answers, look for a mentor. If you want someone to help you uncover answers that are suited for you, look for a coach. Okay? Because a coach will not tell you what to do. A coach will help you to uncover what it is that you'd like to do, assuming that you have clearly defined your goal. I want to move from point A to point B. How exactly am I going to do that? So a little bit about that, just to get a good context of a leader and a coach, and how a coach then differs from a mentor. But how does this fit into a business or an organization scenario, right? Because majority of times within an organization, you may not have the opportunity to work with a coach who is trained or certified, all right? I know that there are organizations now that are making this change, and they are incorporating this into their talent pool. And so they are investing in their people and training them in these coaching skills and training them on how to handle these situations, because they have realized that there are benefits which come about from engaging in a coaching relationship. And so if I can just highlight, what does coaching help with? It can help you with work-life balance as an individual. It can help you with career progression. It can help you with leadership skills if you choose to build your leadership skills. It can help you build your self-confidence. And for entrepreneurs, there's also business coaching that can help you put in processes and principles in place, structures in place that are going to help you grow your business, all right? So coaching in a business context can improve your team performance, can improve your organization performance, and can help you improve communication within the organization, right? And these are not just treatise theories. These are actually proven results that have been released by an organization called ICF. ICF stands for the International Coaching Federation. And this is an organization which is based in the US, which is the largest body of executive coaches or coaches worldwide. Yes. And they have very stringent requirements for you to be certified by them. So because this is a professional program, you find that you have to go through rigorous training and assessment. You cannot just be thrown out there calling yourself a coach, and yet you are causing more damage than helping someone. Yes? So understanding that becomes quite useful and critical, but like I said, not everybody may have the opportunity to go through a process like that. And so in our case today, we are going to look at what are some basic skills that we can think about. It might not turn you into a professional coach, but it may give you some things to think about when you are in the organization and the role you're playing as a leader. So now I want to move to leadership styles and leadership behaviors. And there must be as many leadership styles and behaviors as Google can bring up if you were to ever put in a search for such a thing, all right? And I want to talk very briefly, not from an academic perspective, but from a practical perspective. There's a gentleman called Kurt Lewin, and Kurt Lewin identified 3 leadership behaviors or styles. And he said, there's the first one, which is authoritarian. So the leader tells somebody what to do. Now, if we think about the crisis situation we are in right now, the pandemic, we have a scenario where there are circumstances that require the leaders in the organization to do exactly that. They need to tell people what to do, because if we sit around and wait, it might cause us too many additional problems. So the leader says, I want people to work from home. It's not a debate. You are being told what to do. I want you to come to work and wash your hands. I want you to wear masks. That is the approach that is being used. So there is no asking there. There is a lot of telling. Yeah. Then there's the participatory approach, where you find that the leader can engage his team and have a discussion around things. So he requires input from them. And most times he makes the final decision. And if you're lucky, you get to participate in that process of that final decision. And then you have the delegative type of leadership, where you delegate the things that you need done. And so for you to be able to delegate, and I think this is one of the things from a practical perspective that managers and leaders fear most, is delegation. Because they believe, if I delegate this to someone, it will not get done the way it's supposed to be done. Or they believe that if I delegate, things will not go right. So I will have to go back and do it all over again. So I might as well do it myself. But you see, this is what holds us back in terms of our growth as leaders. And this is a scenario or a situation which, if it occurs, if you find this is the type of leadership style your manager has or your leader has, then this is where now some coaching interventions can come in to help this person to see that in reality, they need to learn how to delegate. They need to learn how to trust their team members. And how does this happen? It happens if you have confidence, if you have trust in your team members, if you have self-awareness. You know what you're not good at, because we can't be good at everything, right? So if you know you are not good at something, but your team member is better than you, give him the opportunity to do it, and you will all shine. You will all have that opportunity to succeed. So that is another area that coaching can actually help with. Getting a leader to see, to be more self-aware, so that they can see how to grow when they have those blind spots that exist in their leadership style. Now, when do you apply this coaching approach? This approach that we are saying, which is more about asking, and it's also about moving people into the future. I should also mention that. So as much as sometimes there's a confusion between coaching and mentoring, sometimes there's also a question that comes, is coaching the same as counseling? Yeah, if you sit down and have a conversation and somebody is telling you about many things, doesn't that sound a little bit like counseling as compared to when you're having a coaching conversation, right? So here's the difference now between coaching and counseling. Counseling is about looking at what has happened in the past and trying to address the things in the past, things that have caused you trauma, things that are hurting you emotionally, and so on. Coaching is about moving forward. It's like saying, all right, now we find ourselves in this pandemic season. So are we going to stop all operations for the school, for the university, or do we find a way of moving forward? What are the options? Let's look at, do we go to online learning? Do we break the classes down? Do we put them all together? That is about moving forward, okay? So when we are looking at these coaching scenarios, we are looking at a lot of asking and a lot of moving forward. We don't look backward. We say what has happened has happened. We've learned from it. Let's move ahead. And we find a way of moving ahead. All right. So I want to give you some things to ponder over, especially in a business context. And one of the things that we found ourselves doing at the moment is logging into a lot of virtual meetings. So we are now hearing terms like Zoom fatigue. People are tired because every 1 hour, every 2 hours, there's a meeting and you are required to be there and you are required to be online. All right. So if you are a leader and you are leading people in a team and all of you are always online, yeah, how do you then interact with these individuals? How do you make sure that these individuals actually are performing at an optimal level? If you sit there and tell them, now, from tomorrow, I want to make sure that you will be on your Zoom call at 8 in the morning and you cannot leave until 1 o'clock. And I don't want to see anybody turning off their camera. Okay, that's an option if you want to go that direction. But do you really think that you're going to get an output? Now, suppose we reverse that situation and you actually ask your team, what do you think is the best way we can handle this situation? How can we make our meetings more interesting or more effective? Then what happens is that by using more of a coaching style or approach, you are getting buy-in, you are getting them to think about the ideas, and you are getting to see what works for them. Because it might work for you to sit there for 4 hours staring at the screen, but it doesn't work for someone else. All right. Perhaps your team member is most effective at 9 p.m. But you know, it's not practical for us to have a meeting at 9 p.m. So can you not have a conversation with him and ask him, okay, if you're not very good at waking up in the morning, then what can you do to contribute to the success of this team and still continue being the person that you are? Because we appreciate that you have an individual personality and you bring some value to the team. And so as you're having this kind of conversations, what is happening is that you're creating an environment where people feel like they are contributing to the conversation, and you are allowing people to buy in and to create the solution for themselves. So there is very little of telling, there's a lot more of asking. All right. So some of you will say, now how long will this process take? Because say, for example, we change the scenario. We say that we have a difficult conversation that we need to have with our team member. Their performance has been really bad. And we need to have a difficult conversation with them. So if I'm going to have this conversation and I have just seen a very interesting comment. Let me come back to that. Now, if we are having a difficult conversation with somebody here, and you want to help them to improve as far as their performance is concerned, what are the options? You sit down with them and tell them, look here, the way you've been handling this project has been very bad. You need to change here and here and here. Okay, again, that is an option. On the other hand, suppose you ask them, how do you feel about the way this project has been going? What do you think the problems are? What challenges are you facing? How can I help you as your boss or your line manager? How can I support you? Now, as you're having that conversation and as you're asking all those type of questions, what is happening is that the person is able to open up, contribute to the conversation. You might even find that there is an underlying issue that you did not know about. All right. So perhaps there's somebody at home who is very sick, and so the mind of this person has been distracted because you've not been able to unearth that there's something else. But by having these conversations, now it allows you to understand your team members a lot more, and it helps you to help them to be better versions of themselves. So back to my issue about the time, that coaching as a process requires time. It is not an instant solution to a problem. So you cannot say that it's an intervention that you bring in when your organization has a problem. All right, when it is burning, when it's an issue and you want that burning problem solved tomorrow, then coaching might not be the intervention for you. But if you have the opportunity to engage with team members and take them through a process of uncovering the best part of themselves, I can assure you that each and every individual has the opportunity to shine if you will just allow them that chance and you help them to unearth that part of them that actually can allow them to shine. So you see, as a leader, you play a big role in managing your talent. And as was said at the beginning by Bwana Ndegwa, he said very clearly that managing talent is so important because in today's day and age, we need to retain the talent we have. And you know, it's very interesting because you hear organizations saying they can't find good people. And then on this other side, you hear young people saying they can't find jobs. So what is happening? There's a disconnect somewhere because it's like there's no meeting of minds. But you see, if we take more of a coaching approach as leaders in organizations, as managers in organizations, then we will allow people to come out and bring out the best part of themselves. And if you get to understand that there are certain limiting behaviors that an individual has, you help them to see those behaviors so that they can adjust, so that they can change, and they can make a difference in their personal life and also in their life, in their career, in the business world. So I hope you are seeing how you can connect this discussion around coaching and try to see how it's so important for a leader to have some coaching skills. That rather, instead of a leader just being there to tell people what to do, there is a different way of handling those scenarios, yeah, where you can harness the power of those individuals. And I would even like to say at this point that if you're the organization that's looking to embrace innovation, this is a wonderful opportunity for you to allow people within the organization to help you in the process of innovation. Because yes, you are the leader by virtue of the fact that you may have the authority, but we all know that one person alone does not go far. If you want to go far, you go with many. And so all these minds, all this wealth of information and talent, when it comes together, your role as the leader is to sort of be like a, yes, I want to say coach, but almost like a facilitator of that information, or facilitator of that relationship between those individuals. All right. And so when somebody is being coached, where does the responsibility lie? Is it with the coach or is it with the person being coached? And to answer this question, I want to give you an analogy of if you are going to the gym. You might decide to go to the gym and you decide that you have an objective in mind. You could be losing weight, you could be gaining weight, you could be getting fit, whatever your objective is. And so you're working with your trainer, and your trainer is actually showing you what to do, what weights to pick, which exercises to do. And initially he shows you how to do it. But tell me, will you get any benefit if he's the one who continues doing the exercise, or he continues showing you the techniques without you putting in the work? No, you will not get the benefit. Yeah. So it's the same with the coach, the approach that a coach uses when working with what we can sometimes call them a client, we can sometimes call them the person being coached or a coachee. Yes. So the coachee, the person who is experiencing this power of coaching, has to put in the work. And that means that they have to have the right mindset. And so you cannot force somebody to go for coaching. You cannot say your performance has been very bad. Since we don't have a coach in the organization, let me look for 3T, who is an external coach. I send you to her, and you better come back with some change. But the person is not in the right frame of mind to experience coaching. And so if you find that the person is resistant, or the person does not want to engage in that kind of intervention, then it will not bring out the desired results. So again, even as you're trying to explain what this coaching is to your team members, as you're trying to share with them about how it has benefits, you have to be able to explain it in a way that they can see the benefit to them. And by default, then their benefit will translate into the organization's benefit, because an organization definitely would want a situation where they have a better and a more effective team. They want a situation where there's great communication happening, because then people are talking to each other and there are less challenges and less problems. Yeah. But individuals are thinking, wow, okay, fine, that's good for them, but what about for me as a person? And so you must be able to explain to someone, coaching can help you as an individual, as you grow, as you plan your career. And coaching is not always about bringing in someone when there's a problem. So for example, many of us are thinking about succession planning in organizations. So as you're thinking about this area of succession planning, you're thinking, who's the next person who's going to head this department? Who's the next person who's going to come into this role? And you need to start preparing people for these roles. So you go ahead, you interview, you appoint someone, and that person who's come into that role, maybe he has never managed a team. Okay, how can you support him? Because this is new for him. He has been a great technical person. You've now brought him and told him, manage this department, because this is you are the best performer. But the best performer is not necessarily the best leader, and therefore needs to be assisted. So the situation that they find themselves in is a positive situation, because they have gotten a promotion, they have progressed in their career. But now you need to help them to be the best that they can be. So they need to think through how they can be a more effective leader or head of department. And that is, again, where the aspect of working with a coach comes in, to help you to be the very best that you can be. Okay, so how do we then go ahead and do exactly this? What are some of the things that we can think about as leaders in organizations, aside from looking for external coaches? And by the way, we are actually quite a number of external coaches available in this country. But aside from looking for an external coach to come in and help you, then what can you do when you are in the organization to be able to embrace these coaching skills? So I'm going to give you only two tips. Two tips that if you actually go ahead and implement, you might find a very big difference in your interactions with your colleagues, with your teammates, and like I said at the beginning, you can actually take these skills and even apply them in your relationships with your friends, in your relationships with your children. So there are lots of opportunities for you to be able to use these skills. So just two that I'm going to tell you about today. The first one has to do with asking questions and being able to ask the right type of questions. So most of the time, when we ask questions, we default to asking what we call close-ended questions. You know, the ones where you get a yes or a no as a response. And so close-ended questions really don't get you very far. Imagine you're having a conversation with your team member here, and he has a performance issue. Do you know that you have been doing a bad job? Yes. Okay, the conversation has stopped, you know. But what do you think has contributed to this poor performance? Now, just by using the word what, you have the ability to open up a whole conversation. It might sound very obvious, That and some of us, by the way, we do it without even thinking. I know, you know, it's in our African culture to use some of these skills. We don't necessarily realize that we are using them. But for those of us who are not very proficient at using them, we now need to tune our minds to actually go ahead and do exactly that. So imagine that scenario where you've asked this question. It's sort of like the same question, but you've just changed it. You've changed it and you've used a more of an open-ended approach. And so what that allows the person receiving the question to do is that they're able to give you more information. Now, based on what they're saying, based on the information that is coming out from them, comes the next question. So, unfortunately or fortunately, if you actually search for coaching questions on Google, you will find very many of them. In fact, you will find solutions like 101 coaching questions. All right, wonderful. So what does that do? You go through the entire list, you end up getting very confused, and when you're sitting in front of somebody, you're thinking, do I ask question number 4 or do I ask question number 6? All right, but it's not about having a list of questions. The list of questions just helps you initially to kind of get used to that process. But really, what goes hand in hand is being able to listen. And that's the second tip. So ladies and gentlemen, the process of listening is, again, something that people will say, what do you mean listen? Of course we listen. We listen all the time. We're listening to you right now. Aha. Are you really listening? Are you really listening? Are you listening to what I'm saying? And are you listening to what I'm not saying? Because there's plenty that I'm not saying. So if you're really listening, you should be able to pick up a few things that I'm not saying. Yeah. So this skill of listening, it's kind of underrated at the moment. We hear because we want to, or we listen because we want to reply. But what if we are really listening to the person? I'll give you a very simple example. You meet somebody in the morning. How are you, professor? I'm fine. But he doesn't look fine. Okay? He looks like something is really wrong. Yeah? Are you going to stop and have a conversation and maybe try to find out what the matter is? How many of us just, accept, how are you, fine? It's a conversation. Yeah, how are you? How are you? And then that's it. We've said hello to each other. But how many of us actually go ahead and stand with our peers, stand with our teammates, stand with each other to really find out how it is that somebody is doing? So that's why I usually say this listening is not just about listening with your ears, it's about listening with your eyes. Because using the power of observation, you will actually be able to tell so many things about the person, about the situation, about other things. And so what this does is that it allows you to then ask the next question. Yeah. So it's not so much about having a standard list of questions. It would be great if you can ask a lot of open-ended questions. And we know, some of us may be familiar with the fact that open-ended questions are usually questions that start with W. So why, where, when, what, who, and then you throw in the H, which is how. All right. But it's how you use these questions that makes the conversation flow. And then there's a process that you need to think about, because as you're asking these questions and as you are listening to what the person is telling you and what they are not telling you, of course, then in your mind, you are helping this person to crystallize that move from where they are to where they want to be. Okay? And sometimes just by asking the question, and when that person is reflecting on the question and answering that question, actually you will find that in that conversation, they have found the answer for themselves. And many times as a professional coach, I have found this happening. People come out and say, you know what, I've just realized that, and then they tell you what they've realized. Or now that I have said it to you, and there's a light bulb that has gone on in their mind. Now imagine how that person feels. Imagine how uplifting that conversation is, that experience is, as compared to you going there and saying, I'm the boss and I am telling you what to do and this is how you're supposed to do it. Yeah, the contrast is like day and night. So ladies and gentlemen, what we are saying here is that we want to encourage a culture where these coaching skills, these are skills that can be learned. Yeah, and we want these coaching skills to be understood and incorporated by all managers and by all leaders, so that we help these organizations create a different culture in the organization, and we ensure that we drive a performance in the organization that is not based on fear, that is not based on authority, but is based on genuine contribution and genuine interest by all the internal stakeholders. And by default, remember that the benefit is towards not just the organization, but the benefit is also towards the individuals. You know, that personal development that comes about. And I am very passionate about personal development, because I believe that when you focus on your own personal development, when you build your leadership skills, whether it's you being able to communicate, you standing in front of an audience, you being self-confident, you understanding how to manage your time. Okay, that's another one that I hear a lot of people talking about, that we struggle with time management. When you're building all these skills in yourself, and you know very well that you are going to have a personal benefit to your career and to your growth. Okay, so don't look at it just from a business perspective. Look at it from both angles. If you're within a business and you really want to impact your business well, think about how you're going to learn coaching skills, how you're going to embrace the power of coaching and incorporate it into your organization. As an individual, don't wait for your organization to do this for you. Okay, if you are lucky to work for an organization that is going to do this or is going to invest, please take advantage. If you are not so lucky, or maybe your organization is still thinking about it as they are trying to understand how this is going to benefit the both of you, then don't just sit there and say, I will wait for this when it comes. No, find out more information about it. Engage coaches, engage mentors. You have understood the difference between coaches and mentors and what these two individuals can do for you. So you make the decision whether you want to engage with a coach or whether you want to engage with a mentor. Yes, and go ahead and have those conversations, because there are very many coaches and mentors who are out there, and they are very willing to help. All this starts with a lot of self-awareness, a lot of self-reflection. Yeah, so it's about you sitting down and thinking through, where are my areas of strength and where are the weak points? What do I want to change? I'll give you an example. If time management is a problem for you, all right, if you know that you will never manage to keep time at all, you never turn in your assignments on time, you never hand in your reports on time, you never even end up in the office on time, you never get to Zoom meetings on time, yes, then just ask yourself, this challenge that I have around time management, is it going to help my career or is it going to destroy my career? Because as you go higher in the organization, how can you be the person leading a department and you're always late? How can you be the person who is asked for a report and it's never on time? So if you realize that that is a weakness of yours, then work with a coach to make sure that that weakness is addressed, that weakness is converted into some sort of a strength. Because if it's going to be the one that's going to hold you back in your career progression, then that's going to have a detrimental effect to your career. Okay, so again, I tell you, look at it from both perspectives, your personal growth, but also the impact on the business, and see what areas of the business can benefit. When you are the leader, when you are the manager, you can embrace the power of coaching learn a few basic coaching skills, like I've told you today. Learn how to listen and listen deeply. Learn how to ask the right kind of questions. And by asking the right kind of questions, you will be able to uncover many, many things. I want to end by sharing with you a very profound quote. And this is about leadership. And this is a quote from John Quincy Adams. I love this quote. And it says, if your actions inspire others to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and to become more, then you are a leader. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope I have inspired you to think of a leader and leadership in a different context. And I hope that by sharing this knowledge around coaching and coaching skills, you will then see that as a leader, you can use the power of coaching to make a difference, not just in your own life, but in the life of people around you. And hopefully that translates into impacting the business and growing the business as well. Asanteni sana.
Wow. We can clap for 3T. And hasn't she delivered very well with all the energy? The sun is good for you. You have done a very good job. You have taught us, you have delivered as a coach, and we are very, very grateful to have you with us today. And of course, on the side, before we go into the Q&A, please tell us, are you an engineer who is doing a PhD? Because some of the questions that I'm coming, people are asking me. So what is it with your name? Yeah.
Yes, thanks, Phyllis, for that question. I should have started with that. I usually start with that. And I saw that question coming in from someone who was asking me how I can convert the aspect of coaching to the engineering profession. So I want to clarify that 3T is my name, engineer is my dad's name, all right? And Bhutia is my husband's name. All right. So how did the name engineer come about? It came about because many centuries back, one of those great grandfathers, and don't ask me which one, I do not know which one, but one of them used to work in the Sultan of Zanzibar on the Navy ship. Yeah. And that was his profession. So the name got incorporated and it got broken down into a family name. Right. So that's how it stuck. And you find that most people tend to get confused and they think that it's a profession and not a name. But maybe I think the only Kenyan who might be using that as a name and not a profession. So you will not forget me very easily. That's what I can say.
Thank you so very much, 3T. Mary Mukindia, who is another coach, says, excellent breakdown on what coaching is. Please give us the quote again. It is very inspiring. Just repeat that before I go into the Q&A, which were sent to us earlier on.
Right. So the quote is from John Quincy Adams. I think that's the one that Mary was referring to. And thanks for calling in, Mary, for tuning in. And the quote was, if your actions inspire others to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and to become more, then you are a leader. Then you are a leader. And that is why I'm challenging each and every one of us to take up the spirit of being a leader. Because I believe very strongly, each and every one of us is a leader in our own space.
So thank you so much, 3T. So I'll go and ask a few questions. We received 25 questions while people were registering. Some of them you have already responded when you are taking us through the presentation. Thank you for making it so organic. We did not have any distractions from presentations and it came from the heart. And I believe you also spoke from your expertise. So I'll ask you 3 questions. I'll ask you questions in batches of 3. So the first one is, how do you manage sustainable coaching of employees to get long-term employee benefit? I don't know if you understand it because I do not, but I'll repeat it. How do you manage sustainable coaching of employees to get long-term employee benefits? I'll ask another question. Oh, okay, is what are the common difficulties or challenges of a team or a group of individuals on the part of the team leader? What are some of the challenges we experience when you're in leadership? And then, if one can be able to coach employees, are you able to coach employees in the course of duty? And that I can put it together with many others, like how do you identify a leader and a boss? And can your supervisor be your coach? So I'll stop there because that's already too much.
All right, so thanks, Phyllis, for the questions. And before I go into them, I just want to give a shout out to my professor, who is Dr. Washington Okeo, who is with us on the call. So, Mwalimu, how are you? I hope you're well. Yes. So let's start with the first one, which is about the sustainable coaching. And how can you ensure that there's a long-term benefit? So the way I look at this is from two perspectives. If we are able to get people within the organization trained on coaching skills, remember I said it's not about turning you into a professional coach. It's about equipping you with sufficient coaching skills to allow you to bring out the aspects of leadership that you really need to focus on. So if we are able to equip people in organizations with coaching skills, then what happens is that they incorporate that as part of their daily activities. If you remember, there's something I told you at the beginning, and I said, when I first got exposed to this aspect of coaching skills, I used to think that there was a button somewhere. You start, oh, now we've had a conversation, now we are ending the conversation, you stop. Okay, but when you incorporate this as part of your life, as part of your normal daily routine, then you get so accustomed to embracing the power of coaching that you incorporate it into everything you do and into all your conversations. So you find that really emphasizes bringing out the best part. Now, how do you sustain it? Well, as a leader, you have to build your strength in terms of, or you build your competency. I think that's the right word. You build your competency when it comes to the coaching skills. And you can only do that with a lot of practice. So you've got to continuously practice, and you have to ensure that you have these long-term conversations with people. All right, so whoever you are assisting using coaching skills, it's a long-term conversation. And by long term, I'm not talking about 3 years or 5 years, but I'm talking about maybe 3 months or 6 months, where you're constantly sitting down with someone to support them and to understand what challenges they are facing and to help them to overcome those challenges. So I hope that answers the question that has been asked. The second one was around challenges faced by a team leader. So I believe if you've been a team leader, you will have had lots of different challenges. You might have individuals who feel like you should not be the leader. And they want to either, challenge you, or they want to make life difficult for you, or they just don't feel like doing what they need to do. And so you find yourself in a scenario of conflict. Yeah, so conflict is one of the challenges that a team leader may face. Another challenge that they may face is communication. So maybe they're not very good at communication. So they're not able to interact with their team members. They're not able to pass on the messages the way they need to be passed on. Another challenge that they may face may be things to do with performance. So they have team members who struggle with performance, and they are not very good at being able to give feedback. So all these scenarios, you can actually assist a team leader through coaching and through the process of coaching to overcome these challenges, because these are learned. These are skills that are learned. So as you are having those conversations with your team leader, then you find that you are able to, you're able to equip somebody to be able to work with their team, to be able to get the best from their team. So, you know, it's like a hierarchical thing. The MD might want to use coaching skills for his senior leadership. The senior leadership want to use coaching skills for their team members. The team members, now the team leaders want to use it for the guys on the ground, depending on how hierarchical your organization is. So it's a process that can flow right through the organization. All right. Then we had a mixture of questions that came in, the difference between a boss and a leader. I think one of the ways, one of the simplest ways in which you can differentiate is another quote. I like quotes, and this one was from Gordon Selfridge. Yeah, and Gordon Selfridge was a retailing magnate who said, "The boss says I, the leader says we." So what does he mean by that? He means that he's the one who he doesn't want a scenario where he's the one who's taking the credit. It's about the group coming together, the team coming together. And so it's the focusing on the we aspect of things, yes? So when we look at that, can we coach employees in the line of duty or in the course of duty? Yes, it's actually possible as a leader to embrace these coaching skills and to coach your people who are reporting to you, okay? If at all those people are not comfortable going through a process of coaching with you, then you can hand them over to somebody within the organization who can take them through the process of coaching. So that removes you from the equation, and that makes the conversation easier. Maybe there's more trust in that conversation. Maybe it can flow, and that the person who is doing the coaching can also assist them. So sometimes it helps when it's not the direct line manager who is doing the actual coaching process themselves. Sometimes it's necessary for the line manager to do the coaching themselves. And sometimes there are scenarios where you have to look for an external coach, somebody outside the organization who comes in with a completely independent approach to things. And because they are not biased and they are not influenced by what's going on in the organization, that's also another option and another scenario, okay? So you find that those can also, those are all options that are available. So I hope that answers the question around, can you coach employees and can your supervisor coach you? Yes,
amazing,
Phyllis.
amazing feedback there. Thank you so much. You have articulated the responses perfectly. If you go to the chat button, thanks to Mary Mukindia, she has written down the quote by John Quincy Adams, which is, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are a leader. So thank you, Mary Mukindia, and others have encouraged you to put this conversation of today in Management Magazine. I believe you'll be doing it for us, and we shall really appreciate. So the second set of questions is something that's very close to my heart, and they're asking how to prep for C-suite positions through coaching. How do you do that? And at least we have 3 members who ask the same questions on how do you prep your staff for C-suite position, which is something for succession planning. And another question that's very interesting is, I had seen it, yes, how can I become a paid up professional coach in Kenya? How does it become a business and it earns me money?
All right, so thanks for those questions, Phyllis. Yes, many of us aspire to get to those levels in organization that are referred to as the C-suite. And these senior level positions, they are very few. Okay, as you go up, the hierarchy, the positions get fewer. So how do you, or how can you then use coaching to help you to think about this process? Now, here's the first thing you need to think about. What exactly do you want in your career? All right. Do you want to be the head of department? Why do you want to be the head of department? Do you think you're the best in the organization, or do you think that you have what it takes, the skills that it takes? All right. If you believe you have the skills that it takes, what exactly are these skills? What kind of skills does it require for you to lead an organization? You want to be the MD. Everybody loves to say, I want to be the MD in the next 10 years. Yeah. So you want to be the MD, but what does it really take to be an MD? The first thing I would tell you is, please go and speak to somebody who is in that position so that you understand from a practical perspective, what does it mean to lead this organization from the top? Yes, because if you aspire towards that, then you must know what you're going to get yourself into. All right, because if you may be the best from a technical perspective, but if you don't have the ability to inspire people, if you don't have the ability to influence them, if you don't have the ability to get them to see things, your vision, yes, if you are always thinking about your personal success and not the success of the team or the success of the organization, then maybe you may not necessarily be the person who is best placed to lead that organization, because a leader must be able to articulate the vision. They have to have a vision. Look at the successful organizations that we have in this country. I usually pick Safaricom. Safaricom is the example for anything and everything. Yes, but look at the leaders who have led that organization. And now I'm talking about a leader in a position of authority or you know of hierarchy. And look at what they have brought to the table. They've been able to articulate the vision. They've been able to concentrate on how to ensure the customer experience is so fantastic that not only are they concerned about the external customers, but they're also concerned about the internal customers as well. All right. So if you are looking to climb that corporate ladder, I would tell you this: find a coach and work with a coach, and identify what are the skills needed to be in those type of positions. Then do a skills analysis or a gap analysis and ask yourself, where am I at when it comes to looking at what I have against what I should have? When you have those gaps that you have identified, start working on them, because that is the process that is going to take you up that corporate ladder. But if you have no clue what you're getting yourself into and you just want to be an MD because it sounds really nice, it sounds, you know, it has a lot of perks to be an MD, go and talk to somebody who is an MD, go and talk to somebody who is a CEO and understand what it means to lead an organization. Yeah, because it's nice to aspire, but you have to understand that it involves you taking a lot of responsibilities, you being able to get people to do the things that they don't even realize they are doing those things, but you have to inspire them and motivate them and guide them into a particular direction. Okay, so I hope that answers that question. And then the second question was around how do you then become a paid coach or a trained coach? So the process of going through coach training is intense, like I mentioned at the beginning. In case you missed it, let me just briefly explain again. So there are several different programs that you can go through to get trained as a coach. How do you decide which coach training program to choose? Well, the first thing I would tell you is look for an accredited program. Look for an accredited program, preferably, okay, maybe I'm biased, but since I'm affiliated with the International Coach Federation, and it is the largest body of coaches in the world, then look for a program that is accredited by ICF. That is a mark of quality. That means that when you are going through that training, it's not just Tom, Dick, and Harry. It's not a quack who is teaching you these coaching skills. It is somebody who has actually gone through an accredited and verified program. Okay, so that's the first thing. Then once you've gone through that program, there are different programs. There are some that are available in Kenya. There are some that are available on the on the international programs that are available online, so you can look for those as well. And if you want more details, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to guide you and provide you with direction. So once you've done your accredited program, that's not the end. You have to continuously update your skills, because it's like a doctor. You go through med school, you come out and you do your 1 year of internship. You have to practice, isn't it? Because you don't have the knowledge. You have to practice on your patients. So it's very similar. Even in coaching, you come in and you have to practice, and you have to work with clients, and you have to build your skills. And then the next thing you do is that you build your coaching hours. So what do I mean by this? Well, let me pick an example from the airline industry. Pilots usually get their different levels of accreditation based on the number of hours that they fly. So coaches get their accreditations or their credentials based on the number of hours that they coach. So it's not like if you are a finance expert and you say, I've worked in the area of finance for 4 years, I have 4 years working experience, then that counts for something. But in coaching, it doesn't count, because in the 4 years that you've been a coach, you coached 2 people. That's not good enough, right? That doesn't mean that you have built any level of experience. So that is why for coaches, we count in terms of the hours of experience, okay? And so what happens when you count your hours of experience, you start going up through some credentialing ladder. And there are 3 different rungs of credentials that are there. And that's why I was telling you, this is a rigorous process. It's not just about people waking up and saying, I'm an expert, I will become a coach, and I'm calling myself a coach. So I will share with you my credentials. I'm very proud of them, so I'm going to share with you. My credentials from ICF are Associate Certified Coach, okay? What does that mean for me to be able to say I'm an Associate Certified Coach? It means that I had to have 100 hours of coaching that I must demonstrate. I had clients and I coached for 100 hours, all right? I then have to sit for an exam that is run by the ICF. This exam is a 3-hour multiple choice questions. And you sit for that exam online and you answer, I think, 170 or something questions in 3 hours. And if you've ever gone for these MCQ questions, exams, you will note that they can be very confusing because the answers are so close to each other. So you have to get the exact right one to be able to make sure that you pass. And the pass mark is not 50. The pass mark is 80. The pass mark is 80. So you can see it's very rigorous. They want to make sure that you know what you're doing. So that's the second thing. The third thing you need to do, you can see how evolving this process is that you need to actually record a coaching session. So I have a coaching session with George and I record it and I send that recording to be assessed by the assessors who are sitting in the US at the ICF. Yes, and they go through that and they go through a checklist of competencies to find out, is this coach actually coaching the way they are supposed to coach? Are they incorporating the competencies the way they are supposed to do that? And as you get to the next level, it continues. That process continues. It's always ongoing. You have to constantly develop yourself and collect what we call continuous professional development. So you must always engage in activities around the area of coaching. And so when you're working with a coach, just know that you have the right as an organization, as an individual, to ask this person, what are your credentials? Where did you study from? Where have you reached? Which organization are you affiliated to? So that you can be sure, yeah, so that you can be 100% sure that you are getting a benefit from the coach. Not that, you know, you wouldn't go to a doctor just because anyone is calling themselves a doctor. So in the same way, be confident enough to ask a coach. Any certified coach who is worth their salt will not hesitate. They will not feel bad if you ask that question, because they know the effort they have put in to get those certifications. And so they will share with you with open heart. Yes.
Thank you so much. So I'll ask you the last set of questions. And
Yes,
as I ask that, in the chat button, you'll see Patrick Kamau has asked, how does one influence other team members to embrace coaching or mentoring for their personal benefits as well as that of the organization? And so I will, and then there's David Mwangangi has asked, please repeat that quote. The boss says, I, and the leader says, we. Maybe you repeat it in your own words. And then allow me to go and ask the 3 questions which were pre-asked earlier. How can one know that he is a good leader, yet many people or employees have their own likes and preferences? And then another question is, give us an example of an organization that has successfully used this approach of coaching for business sustainability. And the last question for today is, in today's information era, any group can easily be more informed than the leader. How do you deal with this? Thank you.
Okay. Right, so let me start with the one about influencing colleagues. Oh, no, let me start with the quote. The quote was by Gordon Selfridge. And by the way, if you are a fan of movies or series, there's actually a series called Selfridges, and it's set in the 1800s, if you are a fan of that kind of a scenario. And it's literally a story about how this guy started what we now come to appreciate as the supermarket kind of scenario. Yeah, so he had this approach where I guess you could almost call him that was the beginning of retail, the retail sector. All right. So this gentleman said, the boss says I, but the leader says we. And there's so many scenarios in that story where you actually get to see the character of Gordon Selfridge coming out so clearly, and he actually is so concerned about the people around him as compared to just being concerned about himself. So he's always, you can see elements of the coaching style being applied as he works with people around him, and he empowers people and he inspires people and he stands there and he gives his vision. So if you have an opportunity, try to look for that series. It's called Selfridges. Okay. So there's a question around how do you influence your peers, those around you, to embrace coaching and mentoring? I think it starts from you being able to explain what coaching and mentoring is all about. If you are in a position where you're able to articulate what coaching and mentoring is, then people can start understanding, or people can start seeing the impact of these interventions. You can also work with your colleagues in human resources. So a lot of human resource professionals now are embracing these concepts of coaching and mentoring, even as part of their continuous professional development. There's a lot of work that the coaches have been doing in conjunction with institutions like IHRM to help HR professionals also embrace these, because they are very good at getting the interventions and passing them down through the organization. So that's another way. The third way would be, if you yourself have a mentor or coach, talk about it. Talk about the benefit that having the mentor or having the coach has had for you personally. Because I think it's from a personal story that somebody can actually see the benefit. And that's where the interventions start becoming real. I worked with a coach, this is what happened. You know, and by sharing those stories, I think that is how you get to help other people to see the benefits. And then the last one is see if you can find a mentor or a coach who would be happy to come in and help do a session or two, because sometimes you have to experience something to also know the kind of impact it has. So maybe there's a coaching session that someone can come in, a certified coach can come in and do for you, for your team, so that they experience what that is all about. Okay, so that was that question. How does one know they're a good leader? Wow. there's this perspective that we think about. We might think that we are very good. We might think that we are excellent at what we do. But we all have our blind spots. So we are not always able to see some things that others can see. That concept is called the Johari window. So for those of you who want to read more, you can actually go check out the Johari window, and you'll see the aspect of not being able to see some perspectives for yourself and others can see for you. So how do you know whether you're a good leader? I think the easiest way to know is to be able to assess the level of motivation, mood, performance in your team, but also by embracing what we call 360 degrees evaluations. So if your organization is able to institute a process of evaluation, then what happens is that the teams that work with you are able to answer some questions, and that information is collected anonymously, and then you are given feedback. And so you'll be given feedback and told where are you doing very well, and which areas do you think you need to improve, or which areas do you think you need to adjust. So again, now that could be a useful tool for you to employ. Organizations that have embraced the coaching skills and coaching as a way of leadership, leaders who actually apply coaching in their day-to-day operations. Gosh, we are back to Safaricom. I told you Safaricom is usually an example for everything. But it is true, they have trained a number of their staff. Some of their senior level managers, leaders are certified coaches. Cooperative Bank is another place where they've done that. UAP, Old Mutual, KCB, all organizations where they have invested in exposing their staff either to experience coaching or to be trained in coaching skills. So those are the options that are available to you.
In this era where the staff may have more knowledge than the leader, how
Yes.
do you balance that?
But yeah, okay. I can tell you it's not just in a business scenario that will occur. That will occur even in your own house. And I'll give you an example. I have a 7-year-old. And one day I was working on something, or I was trying to create a poster, and I was trying to figure out, now, how do I move the text from this side to this side, and how do I change the color? And my 7-year-old comes and says, Mom, you don't know these things. And 2 clicks later, the problem was solved. And I was left there with my mouth hanging open. Like a 7-year-old has just come and done things that I have sat and stared at, and I've looked at this screen for a whole 1 hour. And in 2 minutes, he has sorted me out. So you're going to find these scenarios coming all the time. It's not just in the home setup, in the workplace. You're going to find people who know more than you do, or other things than you do. All right. So today I've come and shared about coaching and mentoring, and maybe some of you had not known about this area. I'm sure tomorrow, if I meet you, you will be able to tell me something about football. And I don't know much about football, but I will hear from you. So in a business scenario, I would say embrace the fact that people are knowledgeable about different things. Take those as strengths and bring them together. Bring them together. That is, I think, the true mark of a great leader, that you identify these strengths and you're able to bring them together to form a cohesive and powerful team, so that people can help each other with the knowledge that they have, with the experience that they have, and they come together and deliver the end result. So embrace it.
Members, we want to say thank you very much to every one of you who's been with us today. And we want to especially remember that without the members, like we often say, KIM does not exist, because KIM is a membership-based organization. And so to all of you members who are able to log in today, those who logged in early, those who logged in right on time, and very importantly, those who are still who have still logged in even up till now, we want to say thank you very much. We also want to appreciate those who logged in for the first time today, We've been having this series of webinars for the last couple of months, but there are those perhaps maybe who came in on board for the first time today. We want to thank you very much. We also want to remember those who've been with us since inception. There are some members today, I can pick the names, but maybe it's not right to mention the names, but they've been with us religiously every Thursday, 3 to 5 p.m. We want to say thank you so very much to all of you. We also want to appreciate the KIEM Governing Council members. Not too long ago, we held elections, and the elections were done very well, very successfully. And it is you members who voted in a new Governing Council to replace some of the members whose term had come to had expired. And therefore, we got a new Governing Council. We have Dr. Lydia Muriuki, who is chair of the council. We have the vice chair, Dr. George Kwetho, and I think I saw he had logged in. Dr. George Kwetho, if you're there, please just wave. We also have committee members who joined in. There are some who've been there in the previous council and they have continued for the second and final term. And this is Canon Como and Engineer Muyera. If you're there, please also wave and members would see you. And then we've also gotten some new council members, and I saw they had logged in today. And this is Commissioner Njoki Kahiga. There are many others, but I'm only mentioning those who are able to log in today. My request is that please go to the website. Once you go to the website, you see the list of the new Governing Council members who have joined in for the next 3 years. Having said that, let me also say that we are privileged also today to see our Vice Chancellor for Management University of Africa, which, like we said earlier on, sponsored by KIM. And 3T was very delighted to see that our Vice Chancellor is on board. So Dr. Okeo, perhaps you can wave so that members know that you're the one. He's right over there. Thank you, Dr. Okeo. And we appreciate the fact that KIM and MUA continue working very closely together. KIM being the sponsor of Management University of Africa, which is going places, and we appreciate the good work that the Vice Chancellor and the Council and the board. Members, without further ado, let me say thank you very much to all of you once again for having stayed on for this webinar and having participated. Those who raised questions, those who contributed in one way or the other, to all of you, we want to say thank you very much, and God bless you all. Keep well, keep safe, and we look forward, God willing, to see you again next week on Thursday, same time, 3 to 5. Bye for now, and good evening.